Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Block Party Podcast. This is episode 12, and I'm TruthBlitz.
And it's your boy Crypto Blood. And today we've got our main man. We've been following him, Nick and I, for years now. Dave from the X22 report. We talk about Facebook. We'll also talk about treasury yields, how that plays with the economic collapse, the petrodollar. And lastly, will the economic crisis be something that affects us in the crypto markets? So stay tuned, and we'll check you guys later.
This the story of Crypto Blood and Truth Blitz. Ask them a cliff high what the truth is. They was just talking about the blockchain. That's when they heard Janet yelling and the cops came. They said, give me all your Bitcoin and lock aim. Then Jamie Dimon showed up and the shots rained. So they hopped in a Lambo and took off fast. Welcome to the Block Party Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Block Party Podcast. This is episode 12, and we have a special guest who was gracious enough to come on with us, Dave from X22 Report. How are you, Dave?
Great. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on. We very much appreciate it. So I guess, normally how we start this off is, we ask our guests to just tell them a little bit about themselves and, their awakening and, how they got to where they are.
All right. Well, I'll start off with how this all started. I was laid off back in 2008, around that time period when everything started to go south, actually right before the stock market collapsed. And I started to look into things and, why did this happen? Why was all this happening to me? And I started to talk to my wife, and I kept on researching more. And after a while, she didn't want to listen to it anymore. So I decided to set up a website and just do a podcast. And I started talking about different subjects, not even knowing about YouTube or anything else like that. I just made MP3s, put them up there, and people started to listen. And it just expanded from there. And now I have the X22 report, which I do Monday through Friday, one on the weekend, and the X22 report Spotlight, where I interview people. And I have these two channels, and people are continually listening. The subscribers, they're growing. And I'm kind of shocked and surprised because when I first started this, I didn't think anyone was going to listen to what I was saying anyhow, because I thought I was alone in this. I didn't realize how many people out there were looking for the truth, how many people were out there looking for other information. And then I started to research stuff even further. And you go down the rabbit hole and you find pretty much a lot of stuff that you never really wanted to find. And you start telling other people, and then they write back to you, and, the whole thing just snowballs and you get all this information. And now I think there's a lot of people that are awake, who are starting the alternative media channels and starting to report on many different subjects now. And it really has just exploded into something completely different than I think even the deep state or the corporate media ever thought it would become. So that's my story.
It's funny because, Dave, I actually started following you pretty early. It's been about, I would say, about 2009, 2010 when I found your channel. And that was kind of around the time I really, basically, the blinders were taken off. I had some issues in 2008 as well with my business. Things kind of slowed up, and that really kind of took me down the rabbit hole to look into what is going on, why this economic crisis occurred. And you were one of the main sources that I used on a daily basis. So it's really a pleasure to have you on today.
Yeah, it's same thing with me. I think I was laid off in 2008. I almost re-enlisted in the military, and I didn't. But it was a rough time. And I think that was, if you didn't wake up and start waking up, after 9/11, I think kind of the next wave of mass awakening was, the financial crisis in 2007, 2008. And, I know they're two totally different things, but, you start going down that rabbit hole, and, that's pretty much how it happens. So I know I've been listening to you for a while as well. You and people like Sean from SGT Report were kind of the people who woke me up. So definitely a pleasure to have you on. Yeah. So, as you know, because you report on it all the time, it really seems like we are entering another major financial crisis. You know, how big do you think this is going to be? And, you know, what are some of the signs that you're seeing, just to, you know, for maybe people who are listening who don't know, the signs that you're seeing that we are entering another major crisis?
Well, I don't think we ever left the original crisis. I think what they've done was they've created this illusion to make us think that everything got a lot better and we're doing well now. And there are people that are writing into me all the time telling me that, you know, I lost my job, I can't find another job. And, you know, all these people writing in, there's something to it. But what's coming, or what we're in right now, is going to be much, much larger than 2008. And we see all the same exact signs that we saw prior to 2008, 2009, when the stock market completely, you know, the bottom fell out and people started to wake up. And then, you know, saw Lehman close down. And I actually had a couple of friends that worked at Lehman who were out of work at the time. And a lot of people, I mean, I worked in the city, I worked in Manhattan at the time. So I knew a lot of people in the industry. I worked in the financial industry for quite a while, and I saw a lot of people lose their jobs. And since 2008, all they did was basically create a gigantic illusion by creating a lot of currency. It never hit the public, because that would be a bad thing. If all that currency they created hit the public, we would have major inflation right now, because it would be, all that currency would be in circulation. So they specifically kept the money printing moving into the banking system, and then via the banking system move into the stock market. Right. And also they created a lot of currency, which went to many different corporations, went to other central banks, to other countries, to keep everything running. And basically it was to prop up the banking system, to prop up their monetary system and gain control of the entire global economic system. And the way they did this is they're able to control interest rates, they're able to control the stock market, they're able to control the bond buying, they can control pretty much everything. And they've learned a lot from the multiple crises that we've had prior to 2008. They learned how to control everything and to keep everything going. And right now what we're in is the end cycle, because the end cycle allows them to create as much currency as possible. And this is what they are doing right now. They're creating a lot. Now, they are trying to unwind, because they have about $4.5 trillion worth of toxic assets on their books. But they started to unwind and they're starting to raise interest rates. But I don't think they're going to get to where they need to go, because, first of all, the economy is not strong. And we can see, as they raise the interest rates, just like we saw them raising the interest rates in 2005, 2006, things are starting to fall apart already. And you can see it in the real estate market. Actually, Canada right now, their real estate market is much, much worse than the US.
Right, yep.
The bubble is popping there. Prices are coming down. Traffic is drying up. And with interest rates moving up, you can see mortgage applications, they're declining. Refinance applications, they're declining. You're seeing delinquencies in automobile loans. And of course, the rating agencies can't make heads or tail of this. Why are we having delinquencies if the economy is so strong? Well, it's because the economy is not strong. We already see retail. Retail is completely imploding on itself. Many stores have closed. And if you noticed, in strip malls and malls, a lot of the stores that have opened are more of the discount type of stores, like Ross, TJ Maxx, and there's other type of those, or Five Below or dollar stores. It's always those cheaper stores. It's not the high end. And if you look, Victoria's Secrets is having a problem. We know Sears, JCPenney's. We know Abercrombie and Fitch is having a problem. It's just happening all over the place. It's just one after another. And it's not because of online. Yes, online has increased in sales. More people are using online.
But percentage-wise, it's not enough to make that difference.
Though, yeah, right? It's not like everyone went, okay, let's go from, you know, Macy's and let's go buy online. You're not seeing the 1-to-1 ratio. You're not seeing it. But online is gaining ground, and Amazon has not taken the business away from every single person. Most of these stores have online businesses. Right. They have an online presence. So you can order online from all of these places. So saying that everything's going to online is kind of ridiculous.
Right.
And online is only 10% of the entire retail market. So it's growing, but it's not as big. And if you look in Manhattan and if you look in many other areas, you can see there's a lot of retail space that is available. And you can see from all these different things, all these different indicators, it's starting to break down just like 2008 or prior to 2008.
So and you speak of this what they call quantitative tightening, right? They're slowing down, or they have slowed down on buying any bonds. And you know, it's funny because my wife and I'm in Detroit, Dave, and so you've covered many times on your channel about Detroit and the economic crisis we've gone through. But you know, many times we see, my wife and I joke, we see new strip malls being placed in areas where we're like, there's no need for this type of development. And so it's really just cheap money being offered to these businesses, and you know, that's how they're keeping this thing going. Is this going to stop anytime soon? When do you see basically the water valve being shut off from this easy money that's being circulated? Because it's being circulated at the top. It's been, you know, starting with the banks, the government, the banks, and then the small businesses. But from there, you know, it stops there.
I don't think they're going to stop anytime soon. I think they're going to keep it going. And I think they'll accelerate as things start to worsen. And they'll make an excuse to create even more currency, because that's really all they have left. I mean, already the Fed came out with their minutes, and they
told yesterday, right? Yeah.
They told us prior to these minutes that they were going to raise the interest rates 3 to 4 times. Well, right. You know what's going to happen if they raise it 3 to 4 times? It's going to basically hurt the housing market. It's going to hurt the student loan market. It's going to hurt the automobile market. And we're already seeing delinquencies in the automobile market because they opened it up to subprime. Same thing with the housing. Fannie Mae opened up mortgages where they were allowing 3% down, but they were doing an income check. Now it's 3% down, no income check.
Yeah.
So you can see that they're, you know, once you start doing these type of things to bring anyone you possibly can into the system, you know, we have a problem. But these latest Fed minutes, they said, well, maybe we'll raise the interest rates one more time because we're not sure if the economy is strong enough
to do this handle. Every time. Yeah. It's insane. And then the stock market rallies yesterday off of those minutes. So, and that happened in 2015, I believe, as well, where, you know, they said they were going to do the first rate hike, and they came out and said they weren't going to do it. They changed their mind, and the stock market went crazy. So it's just the same game they're playing every time, I guess, right?
Yeah, well, they can't raise the interest rates too quickly, because if they do raise the interest rates too quickly, the whole thing just comes down, you know, in a split second. So what they do is they do it very slowly. If you go back to 2005, you can see how it looks like a little step ladder, and you can see how slowly they raised it. And then when they hit a certain point where everything started to break apart, people started to leave their homes because of interest rates, because they bought their house with adjustable rate mortgages. They dropped the rates. It was like an elevator going down. No, they didn't stop at any floors. They just went straight down. But going up, they went very, very slow, so they wouldn't, you know, alert anyone to what is really happening. And that's what they're doing right now. They're slowly inching up so they don't take the blame. The central banks, they don't want to take the blame for a crash in the economy. They'll take the applause for the economy doing well, but when it comes down, they usually point fingers in other places. I mean, if you go back to 2008, we were lied to the entire time. I mean, all the statistics, all the AAA ratings, everything they ever said to us was a lie. I mean, we were basing all the investments and what everyone was doing, buying houses, going out shopping, taking out equity lines of credit. They were basing this on what they were telling us, and it turns out that they were lying to us, and pensions and things like that. They were investing, you know, they were using those stats, those AAA ratings and things like that to invest, and it turns out to be a complete lie. That is what we're seeing right now. This entire thing is one gigantic lie. And of course, the truth will only come out when the whole thing starts to fall apart. And once it starts to fall apart, people are going to go back in time and say, oh, wow, look what they did. Look what happened. Everything started to fall back, fall apart in 2016. Oh, wait, the Fed lied to us. The rating agencies, they knew about what was going on. The banks knew what was going on. They were insolvent. And that's when all of this is going to come out. Right now, you're sitting here thinking that everything is fine. I mean, I even talk to neighbors and friends. They think everything's great. They think everything is fantastic. Just like prior to 2008, I mean, people were up to debt, up to their eyeballs, and they didn't even realize that there are problems, because what they do is they create bubbles and they make you think, since your house is appreciating and there's more debt out there, that everything is fine. And people feel good about it when their houses go up. Or if they don't even own a house and they see other houses go up, they feel good about it because they feel that's an indicator of the economy doing well. Same thing with stock market. If that's going up, that must mean that companies are doing well and there's a lot of jobs out there and everyone can find a job, which again, this is also fake, phony, and false.
Right. Yeah, definitely. I wanted to ask your take on this. When the bottom really starts to fall out, how do you think this will affect the crypto market?
Well, I talk about the crypto market quite a bit, and
right. Yep.
I believe in the crypto market. I also believe in the precious metals market. I believe they work together. And I know a lot of people, don't like cryptocurrencies. They think that, well, it's the same as the central bank, or the central bank is controlling them. First of all, we have to think about this for a second. I mean, everyone goes, well, that's why we need gold and silver. Well, we had gold and silver, and what did the central banks do? They controlled it, right? Because the dollar was backed by gold, and all of a sudden they just took us off gold. Right. So if the central banks can control that, they can control the cryptocurrency market, but that's a little bit tougher to do,
right?
Especially when the exchanges are going to be decentralized. Right now, we have like Coinbase, we have Kraken, we have Binance, we have Bittrex, we have all these different exchanges, and they're not really decentralized. And depending on where they're located, the governments can control them. But once all these exchanges become decentralized, it's going to be very, very difficult to control the crypto market. And secondly, the cryptos, the currency, the coins, you don't just push a button and, oh, look, I have, millions of them. There is a process, just like gold and silver. You have to mine. It takes energy. It takes time. It takes the algorithm to do the work. So it takes a considerable amount of time and energy and work to get those coins. And it's not like, oh, I push a button and the mining starts, and I have the servers in my house, and all of a sudden I have, 3 Bitcoins. It doesn't work.
Right. It's not, it's not fiat currency as we have with the US dollar and all of the yen and euro. Fiat is declared by the government to be of value, and we legally have to use that. So by definition, cryptos are not fiat, in my opinion. What do you feel about that?
I think fiat is completely different, because the central bank just actually really pushes a button and the currency is created in a split second. There's no work involved. There's nothing backing it except the government.
Right.
And, if the government
enforced by tax too, right? That's how.
Well, they had to do that, because how do you pay for the interest that's loaned to the government? So they had to create this structure. This is how they keep us all in line.
Right.
And the reason why I like cryptocurrencies is because it's completely separate and apart from the central banking system. In a situation where countries or banks get into a crisis, like we saw in Cyprus, and the banks go on a bank holiday, there's no place to move your currency. You can move it into another bank, but it's still controlled by the banking institutions. You could run to the ATM and try to get it out in cash, but then again, they can say you can only take out a certain number of dollars during the crisis, and also you have to wait online. This is the first time that that I know of where you can transfer your currency out of the bank into something that is completely outside of the system. You can send it to your private wallet. You can send it to an online wallet, and it's not in the banking system anymore. You don't have to stand online at the ATM and still get the fiat currency. You still, I say fiat. I know there are people that say it's fiat. Other places say it's fiat. I mean, people are correcting me all the time, but it's pronounced, I think it's really pronounced fiat. That's why I keep saying fiat, but that's a whole other story. But, this is the only time that I know, the only system that I know of that you can actually take it out. So if we go to Greece, for instance, when, you know, everything, I mean, it's still falling apart. They're telling us it's getting better, but it really isn't. People ran to the banks beforehand because they were worried that the banks were going to go on a bank holiday. Now they took their funds out in cash. It would have been a lot easier if they transferred their funds into cryptocurrency. And guess what? It's not tied to any country, any group, or anything, because it's recognized worldwide. You can.
So you bring up a good point that I want to ask you about. Before cryptocurrencies, Dave, there was no exit for basically Gresham's law to really occur, where good money kind of drives out bad money, or bad money drives out good money, I should say. Are the cryptocurrencies now that mechanism where we'll finally have an exit strategy, per se, if you want to call it, when the whole thing collapses?
I think so. I think cryptocurrencies is the perfect exit strategy, because if you look at the central banking system, look how hard they're demonizing cryptocurrency. Mm-hmm. They're telling us that criminals use it, terrorists use it. It's used for money laundering.
When the dollar is the main one, right?
Yeah. Right. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous because, I mean, you guys know the blockchain is a truth machine. It's a gigantic ledger. You can track where everything is.
Right.
And it makes no sense in what they're saying. And of course, they're always telling you the opposite of what's really the truth. Yep. And that's why they're doing it, because they don't want you to move into this. If the people actually woke up today and, you know, everyone said, you know something, why don't we stop using the dollar and let's take all of our funds and put it into cryptocurrency. You know, the whole system would stabilize them because the people would be in it. People would be transacting, buying, using it in Amazon, using it in Walmart, using it everywhere, because it's not that big of a stretch to use it. A lot of companies are starting to take Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. And if you add in atomic swaps, well, that just makes it even easier. And actually, I rather have many different coins than just one, because if you have many, it makes it even harder for the central bank.
Right.
Because this way you can say, oh, you know, I'm going to take my Bitcoin and change it into Dash at a split second,
right,
and make that purchase, or, you know,
or Monero or something like that, an anonymous coin. Yeah, absolutely.
Right, or anything like that. I mean, that's something that I think, if the people actually started to wake up and started to realize what this really is, and there are many people that are waking up, but what they've done was, especially with Mt. Gox and dropping a lot of Bitcoin, bringing the price up and down, creating this volatility, making it seem like it's not safe and you can't use your credit card to purchase it. It's funny, you're allowed to use the credit card to go gamble, though. That's
right.
But cryptocurrencies, that's a scary thing.
And not only that, they took it a step further, Dave, and said that you can't use your debit card to purchase crypto. Now, that is when I was like, okay, wait a minute. I can't use my own money to purchase cryptocurrencies. And as you stated, I can go and do gambling at a casino on it. It's just insane.
Yeah, it's the whole nanny state thing. You know, they're doing this because they're looking out for us. They need to protect us from ourselves. But like you said, they don't do that when it comes to gambling. It's total insanity. It really is.
Yeah, they're not really protecting us. They could care less about protecting us. They don't care about that. They're protecting themselves.
Right.
And they're protecting their system. Their system, I mean, think about it. Christine Lagarde in the IMF, she doesn't pay taxes. She's exempt from paying taxes. Biz, I mean, the Bank of International Settlements, there's no laws there. I mean, they don't have to abide by any laws. I mean, the banking system, the central banking system, is above all of this. I mean, don't you think that's kind of odd? I mean, why would we give all that power to a banking system? It makes no sense whatsoever. And we should see, especially with the Fed, we should be able to see everything that they do. Mm-hmm. We should see all their books. I mean, if they're really working for the people, and they're doing this for the people, that it should be completely transparent. And that's what cryptocurrencies is. It's completely transparent. You can see everything. You can see, oh, this person transferred this, cryptocurrency to here, then exited out and then bought some more. And you can see all the transactions that they've done. And this is what they're worried about. They're really worried about the truth. They're really worried about, oh, if you use cryptocurrency, it's outside of our system. You can see all the transactions. You can see what is going on. And when I say you can see everything, you can't see people's names. You can't see their addresses. That if people are listening, that's not what they see. And I say that, cryptocurrency, it's not that big of a stretch. You have a public address is like your bank account number. And then you have a private key. Just like your PIN number for the bank. You don't hand your PIN number out. Well, you don't hand out your private key, but you use your public address, which is your account number, to move cryptocurrencies back and forth. I mean, it's really simple.
So let me ask you this. Why haven't they clamped down like really, really hard on cryptos? That has been a question that I have had in my mind for a long time. And I'm just trying to figure out, I know they play the whole game theory. They're really strategic on how they, execute things on the masses. Why haven't they just done an outright ban on cryptos, at least in the US? What are your thoughts about?
You mean make it illegal?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think they want to make it illegal because of the blockchain technology. I think what they really want to do is they would like to introduce their own type of coin eventually. And the only way they can force us to use it, it's almost like the Federal Reserve note. What do you have to do to get people into it? Well, you have to have governments pass certain laws to say, this is the coin that we recognize. All others, obsolete. This is the only coin. And they can bring us then onto the blockchain system. I don't think they want to go as far as saying, cryptocurrencies and blockchain, it's illegal to use the system because then they wouldn't be able to use it. And if you notice, JP Morgan Chase, Citibank, and the rest of the banking systems, they're looking into blockchain. They're actually trading on the blockchain. They're trying to figure out a way to get the world onto the blockchain, but onto their system.
Yep.
I think that's their eventual agenda here. And if they say, oh, this is illegal, then everything is illegal. And what are they going to say? Bitcoin is the only one illegal? Monero is the only one illegal? I mean, they would, it's kind of ridiculous. So what they do is they make it seem, I think what their strategy is Bitcoin. Everyone heard of Bitcoin. Let's show everyone how volatile it is. It's not safe. You can't put your money in there. You're going to lose it. We will introduce a coin that is backed by the central bank. We'll manage it. The government will say, this is the coin, and we will stabilize it for you. So you don't have to worry. And take your funds out of Bitcoin, just transfer them right over to our coin, and everything will be fine. I think that's their main agenda.
You think they will succeed in this, in your opinion?
The only way they can succeed is like they did in 1913. They need the governments to pass certain laws, because if the government says this is the only currency that we recognize, and let's say it's the Fed coin, what do you do? And they say that, there's no other coin out there that we recognize. You would have to use the Fed coin. You would get paid in Fed coin. You would purchase with Fed coin. You'd be taxed with Fed coin, because that's the bottom line. They're going to create the coin and they're going to loan it to the government with interest. Bitcoin, there's no interest attached. It's created and we don't have to pay tax on it because there's no interest generated from it.
It's not backed by debt like the fiat currency is. So we need interest for the fiat currencies because it's backed by debt, and we need to pay that debt back for every dollar created, essentially.
Right.
Yeah.
So Bitcoin, like Bitcoin or any of the other coins, it's created, but there's no interest attached to it. So there's no reason to do anything else. There's nothing to pay back.
Right. Right.
And actually, if you work outside, I mean, the only thing that's taxable really is the Federal Reserve note. There's really no taxes on crypto. You can hold Bitcoin. There's no taxes on it until you take it and you transfer it and exchange it into Federal Reserve note. Then you owe taxes on that currency. But if you just hold Bitcoin, if you just hold Dash, if you just hold Monero, if you just hold Litecoin, there's no taxes on it.
They said, give me all your Bitcoin and lock aim. Then Jamie Dimon showed up and the shots rained. So they hopped in a Lambo and took off fast. Welcome to the Block Party Podcast.